Admiral Geo Kim walked to the quiet halls of Luna Station, watching the morning shift change through the observation windows. Earth hung below them like a blue marble, peaceful and serene. For 300 years, humanity had lived this way, trading with distant worlds, building colonies, and solving problems with words instead of weapons. The communication screen on his desk flickered to life. Captain Minsu Park appeared, his face pale and shaking. "Admiral, we have a problem." "A big one." "What is it?" Geo asked, settling into his chair. The Vorthak attacked New Sol Colony. They came out of nowhere with a massive fleet. The colony is gone, sir. All of it. Geo felt his blood turn to ice. New Sol was home to 4 million people. Farmers, teachers, children. Survivors? None that we can find. They bombed everything from orbit, then sent ground troops to finish the job. Minsu's voice cracked. "Sir, we're getting reports from Harmony Base and Terra Verde too. The Vorthak hit all 3 outer colonies at the same time." The screen went black. Geo sat in silence, staring at the blank display. 12 million humans. Dead in a single day. The Vorthak Empire had always been aggressive, conquering smaller worlds across the outer rim. But they had never touched human space before. On Earth, President Minji Park was attending the Cherry Blossom Festival when her assistant Syljan Lee ran up to her, his face white with fear. He whispered the news in her ear. The children around her continued laughing and playing, unaware that their world had just changed forever. "Give me the Defense Council," she said quietly. "Now." The Vorthak War Commander Gextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the burning remains of Terra Verde through the view screen. His reptilian features curved into what humans might call a smile. The soft mammals had been easy prey, just as his intelligence reports promised. Rich, weak, and unprepared. "Send word to the High Council," he hissed to his communications officer. "The human colonies are ours. Their fleets barely fought back. We can take their core worlds within a year." But something strange was happening across human space. Instead of panic and surrender, something else stirred. On Mars, ancient warning signals that had been silent for centuries began to pulse deep underground. Automated systems that had slept for generations suddenly came online, their displays showing status reports in languages that few humans could still read. General Taemin Cho received the emergency alert while visiting his grandson's school. The message was short: Dragon Protocol activated. Report immediately. He had hoped never to see those words. His grandfather had helped write the protocols after the last great war on Earth, 3 centuries ago. They were meant to be humanity's final insurance policy, used only if the species faced extinction. As he drove to the classified facility beneath Sol, his hands shook on the steering wheel. The Dragon Protocol wasn't just a military plan. It was humanity's admission of what they really were beneath their peaceful exterior, what they had been before they chose to become something better. The facility was already buzzing with activity when he arrived. Dust-covered computers came to life, displaying ship designs that officially didn't exist, production schedules for weapons that were supposed to be myths, and troop training programs that turned ordinary citizens into something far more dangerous. Captain Hyunwoo Jang stood before the massive sealed doors of Facility Omega, hidden deep in the Martian ice caps. The keypad hadn't been touched in 300 years, but his code still worked. Inside, robotic systems began their ancient dance, constructing ships from blueprints that violated a dozen peace treaties. The Vorthak Empire had made a simple mistake. They looked at 3 centuries of human peace and assumed it meant weakness. They saw the lack of military fleets and thought it meant inability. They watched humans solve conflicts through trade and diplomacy and believed they had forgotten how to fight. They were wrong. Back on Luna Station, Admiral Jiho Kim stared at the reports flowing across his screen. Something was happening across human space that defied explanation. Mining colonies were requesting military supplies. Trade ships were asking for weapon modifications. Civilian populations were volunteering for military service in numbers that broke all records. But strangest of all were the messages flowing through classified military channels, using codes and phrases that hadn't been spoken in centuries. The old ways returned. Blood remembers. Time to show them what we were. A new message appeared on his screen, marked with security clearances he thought no longer existed. It contained a single line of text and a set of coordinates. The dragons are waking. Report to command. Geo looked out at the stars, where somewhere in the darkness, an alien empire celebrated their easy victory over the soft, peaceful humans. They had no idea what was coming for them. Humanity had spent 300 years learning to be gentle, but they had never forgotten how to be dangerous. The galaxy was about to remember why Earth's children had once been called the most successful predators in known space. The dragons had been sleeping, but they were not dead. And now, someone had made the mistake of waking them up. Captain Hyunwoo Jang stood before the massive steel doors deep beneath the Martian ice. His breath made small clouds in the cold air as he entered the access codes his grandfather had made him memorize as a child. The doors hadn't opened in 300 years, but they slid apart smoothly, revealing a cavern filled with sleeping machines. Red lights began blinking across hundreds of control panels. Computer screens flickered to life, showing blueprints for ships that looked nothing like the peaceful vessels humanity used for trade. These ships had sharp angles and weapon ports. They were built for one purpose: war. Facility Omega Online, announced a mechanical voice. Dragon protocol confirmed. Beginning production sequence. Across the solar system, similar facilities were waking up. On Europa, Commander Minwo Park watched his ice mining station transform before his eyes. Hidden panels slid away to reveal training grounds and weapon storage. The miners he supervised turned out to be former soldiers. Their peaceful jobs just a cover story they had maintained for decades. "How long have you known?" asked his assistant, a young woman named Yuna who had worked the ice drills for 5 years. "My whole life," Minwo replied. "My family has been guarding this place since my great-grandfather's time. We always hoped we'd never need it." On Earth, General Taemin Cho descended into a bunker beneath the Korean mountains. The elevator went down for what felt like forever, past levels marked with warnings in old languages. At the bottom, he found a room full of people he recognized but had never expected to see together. Admiral Soyeon Kim stood at the center, wearing a black uniform he had never seen before. "Welcome to the real human military," she said. "Population believes we have 50 ships for peacekeeping. The truth is we have 5,000 warships in hidden storage, and the factories to build 50,000 more." "Why keep it secret?" asked a young officer. "Because peaceful people sleep better at night," Soyoung answered. "Our job was to make sure they could stay peaceful. But now," she gestured to the screen showing the destroyed colonies, "now they need us to remember what we really are." The file she showed them contained humanity's true history. Earth hadn't become peaceful because humans were naturally gentle. They became peaceful because they were so good at war that they nearly destroyed themselves. The Dragon Protocol was their promise to never let that happen again, but also their insurance that they could protect themselves if necessary. On Luna Station, Admiral Geo Kim received orders that made his hands shake. He was to take command of the first Dragon Fleet, ships that would launch from hidden bases across the solar system. The crews were already being selected, not from the regular peacekeeping forces, but from families who had been secretly training for this moment for generations. "Sir," said his aide, Lieutenant Yuna Cho, "I'm getting volunteer applications from across human space. Farmers, teachers, shop owners. They're all asking to join the military. The numbers are incredible." Geo looked at the reports. On every human world, people were abandoning their peaceful lives to take up arms. But these weren't panicked civilians. They moved with purpose, as if they had been waiting for this moment their entire lives. The strangest part was how quickly they adapted. Farmers who had never touched a weapon proved to be expert marksmen. Teachers became tactical geniuses. Shop owners turned into logistics specialists who could supply an army across light years of space. The Vordhak Empire began intercepting human communications, trying to understand their enemies' response. What they found confused them. Humans weren't crying for help or begging for mercy. Instead, they were sharing old stories and singing ancient songs about dragons and wolves. War Commander Gextar studied the translations his intelligence officers provided. What does it mean? The sleepers rise, he demanded. We're not sure, sir. They also keep saying, remember the old ways and show them what we were before. Before what? Before they chose be better, sir. Gextar didn't understand, but something about those words made his scales itch with unease. Back in the Martian facility, Captain Hyunwoo watched the first warship roll off the production line. It was beautiful in a terrible way, all sharp edges and hidden weapons. The humans who came to crew it moved like they had been born for this moment. How do they know what to do? He asked the facility's AI. Genetic memory, Captain. Humans spent millions of years learning to hunt and fight. 300 years of peace doesn't erase that programming. It just sleeps until needed. President Minji Park addressed the human worlds from a command center that officially didn't exist. Behind her, displays showed fleets assembling and armies forming. But her voice was calm, almost gentle. The Vorthak believe they attacked weak prey, she said. They're about to learn that we aren't weak. We simply chose to use our strength for building instead of breaking. That choice is temporarily suspended. Across human space, the transformation continued. Peace-loving colonists became soldiers. Scientists became weapons designers. Diplomats became spies. And deep in hidden bases, the dragon fleets prepared for launch. The galaxy had known humanity as gentle traders and wise diplomats. Soon they would meet humanity's other face, the one they had kept hidden for 3 centuries, hoping never to need it again. The dragons were awake, and they remembered how to fly. 6 months after the attacks, the first dragon fleet emerged from the hidden shipyards of Mars like predators stepping into sunlight. Captain Do Hyun Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable consequence, watching as 300 warships formed perfect battle formations around him. These weren't the smooth, friendly ships the galaxy knew. These vessels had sharp angles and dark metal that seemed to drink in starlight. All ships report ready, Captain, said Lieutenant Commander Yuna Song from her tactical station. Her fingers moved across controls that had been designed for one purpose, to destroy enemy fleets with maximum efficiency. Set course for Keth Prime, Do Hyun ordered. It's time the Vorthak learned what they purchased with civilian blood. The Dragon fleet moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. Their approach to the Vorthak border system was detected by long-range sensors, but the aliens couldn't believe what they were seeing. The database showed these ships as impossible. No human military possessed such vessels. War Commander Gextar received the alert in his command center on Keth Prime. The orbital defense platforms were the strongest in Vorthak space, designed to stop entire invasion fleets. How many ships? He demanded. 300, sir. But they're not matching any known human designs. Impossible. Humans build cargo vessels and research ships, not warships. The truth became clear 30 minutes later, when the Dragon fleet arrived. The human ships didn't slow down or request negotiations. They simply opened fire with weapons that shouldn't exist. The defense platforms, built to withstand years of bombardment, crumbled like paper in a fire. Emergency transmission to High Command. Gextar screamed as explosions lit up the space around his station. The humans have a secret fleet. Our intelligence was completely wrong. But his transmission was cut short as human boarding pods smashed through his station's hull. The soldiers who emerged weren't the soft colonists the Vorthak expected. They moved like professional killers, their weapon precise and deadly. Within an hour, Keth Prime was under human control. Admiral Geo Kim watched the battle reports from Luna Command, now revealed as the true center of human military power. The transformation was complete. The peaceful facade had been dropped, revealing the war machine underneath. Sir, reported Captain Minsa Park, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 Vorthak systems. They want to negotiate. No negotiations, Geo replied coldly. They had their chance for diplomacy before they murdered children. Now they get consequences. The Dragon fleets moved deeper into Vorthak space like a spreading infection. Each system they entered fell within hours. The Vorthak military, trained to fight weaker species, found themselves facing opponents who understood warfare on a level they couldn't comprehend. On the bridge of the memory of New Seoul, Commander Hyojin Park coordinated her fleet's assault on a Vorthak supply depot. Her tactical display showed enemy movements in real time, but more importantly, it showed their weaknesses. Humans had spent centuries studying alien psychology during peaceful trade negotiations. Now that knowledge became a weapon. They're retreating to Formation Delta 7, reported her weapons officer. Predicted, Hyojin smiled grimly. Vordak commanders always fall back to defensive positions when surprised. Target their supply ships. They can't fight without ammunition. The human attack wasn't just military, it was psychological. They broadcast recordings on all Vordak frequencies. The last messages from families on Terra Verde, children singing lullabies on Harmony Base, doctors trying to save patients on New Sol. Every Vordak soldier heard exactly what their glorious conquest had cost in innocent lives. But the humans' true genius showed in how they fought. Commander Sungji Kim led a wolf pack of destroyers that moved like they were reading each other's minds. When Vordak reinforcements tried to flank them, the human ships scattered and reformed in patterns that seemed almost instinctual, like fish avoiding predators. How do they coordinate so perfectly? Demanded a captured Vordak officer. Practice, replied his human interrogator, Captain Yunha Cho. We've been hunting in packs for millions of years. You just forgot we were predators because we'd been polite for a few centuries. The other galactic civilizations watched the war through their sensors and communication intercepts, growing more horrified with each battle report. The humans they thought they knew, the peaceful traders and wise diplomats, had revealed themselves to be something far more dangerous. President Minji Park addressed the Galactic Council via emergency transmission, but this time she wore a military uniform instead of diplomatic robes. Behind her, tactical displays showed human fleets advancing on dozens of worlds simultaneously. You wanted to see what humans do when pushed to their limits, she said, her voice calm but cold as space. You're seeing it now. This is what we were before we chose to build gardens instead of graveyards. This is what we became when someone decided to test our patience. War Commander Gextar, now trapped on his burning command station, sent one final message to his superiors. They fight like demons from the deep void. Our ancestors' warnings were true. Never wake a sleeping predator. Admiral Geo Kim read the intercepted message and allowed himself a thin smile. We're not demons, he said to staff. We're just humans who stopped pretending to be something else. The dragon fleets continued their advance, and the galaxy learned a terrible truth. Humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their wisdom. It was their ability to become exactly what the situation required. The siege of Vordak Prime began at exactly 0600 hours, Galactic Standard Time. General Sungji Kim watched from his command ship memory of New Sol as a human fleet surrounded the enemy homeworld like a closing fist. But this wasn't going to be a simple bombardment. The humans had learned something during their centuries of peace that made them far more dangerous than any warrior race. They understood their enemies completely. Begin psychological operations, Sungji ordered quietly. Across the planet's surface, every communication device suddenly activated. Vordak families eating breakfast heard the voices of human children from Terra Verde, recorded in their final moments. Workers heading to their jobs listened to doctors on New Sol trying to save patients as the bombs fell. The sounds of 12 million humans dying filled every speaker on the planet. War Commander Gextar stood in his underground bunker, watching his soldiers' faces as the broadcast continued. Some were crying, others had put down their weapons and walked away from their posts. Turn off those transmissions, he screamed. We can't, sir, his communications officer replied, his voice shaking. They've taken control of our entire network. And, sir, they're broadcasting on a frequency our children use for school lessons. Above the planet, Commander Yunha Cho smiled grimly as she monitored the enemy's responses. The humans weren't just attacking military targets. They were attacking the will to fight. Every Vordak citizen now knew exactly what their glorious empire had done to innocent families. Phase 2, she announced to her team. Begin infrastructure targeting. But the humans didn't destroy the power plants or water systems. Instead, they took control of them. Captain Hyojin Park's cyber warfare unit had spent months studying Vordak computer systems during the approach. Now they turned the enemy's own infrastructure against them. Food distribution centers began delivering rations stamped with pictures of human children. Water systems added harmless but bitter chemicals that reminded everyone of the taste of fear. Transportation networks displayed images of the destroyed colonies at every station and checkpoint. "This is brilliant," whispered Lieutenant Unisong, watching the psychological data streams. "They're not trying to kill the population. They're making them understand what their leaders did." The real genius of human warfare showed itself in the space battle above. When Vordak reinforcements arrived from 3 nearby systems, they expected a traditional fleet engagement. Instead, they found something that defied their understanding of military tactics. Captain Do Hyen-Lee commanded a squadron of ships that moved like they were sharing the same mind. When the enemy fleet tried to concentrate their firepower, the human vessels scattered like startled birds, only to reform behind the Vordak ships in perfect attack formation. "How are they coordinating without communication?" demanded the Vordak fleet commander. His tactical officer had no answer. The human ships seemed to predict each other's movements, flowing around enemy attacks and striking from unexpected angles. It was like watching a school of fish avoid predators, beautiful, natural, and utterly deadly. The truth was simpler and more terrifying than the aliens realized. Humans had evolved as pack hunters on a world full of dangerous predators. Their brains were wired for group tactics, for reading subtle signals and moving as one unit. 3 centuries of peace hadn't changed that programming. It had only made them forget they possessed it. Commander Minwo Park led the boarding operations when the Vordak orbital defenses finally fell. His teams moved through enemy ships with an efficiency that shocked even veteran soldiers. They weren't just clearing rooms. They were hurting defenders exactly where they wanted them, using fear and confusion as weapons. "Surrender now," Minwo announced over the ship's communication system, "and you'll be treated according to galactic law. Continue fighting, and you'll learn why Earth's predators ruled their planet." The Vordak soldiers looked at each other with growing terror. These humans moved like hunters who had done this 1,000,000 times before. Their eyes held the cold focus of creatures that killed to survive, not for glory or conquest. On the planet's surface, the civilian population was in open revolt. General Taemin Cho watched the reports from his landing craft as Vordak citizens demanded their government surrender. The psychological warfare had worked perfectly. The population now saw their leaders as the monsters they were. "Sir," reported Captain Hyunwoo Jang, "the Vordak High Council is requesting terms of surrender." "No terms," Sungji replied. "Unconditional surrender only. They wanted to see what humans do when pushed too far. Now they know." The final assault in the government bunkers lasted exactly 43 minutes. The human soldiers moved to the complex like water flowing downhill, always taking the path of least resistance, but somehow ending up exactly where they needed to be. War Commander Gextar found himself face-to-face with Admiral Jiho Kim in the ruins of his command center. The human officer looked at him with eyes that held no anger, no hatred, just the cold calculation of a successful predator. "Your species fights like demons," Gextar whispered. "No," Jiho replied quietly. "We fight like humans. The demons were afraid of us long before you ever heard of our species. The war was over, but the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again." They had seen the face behind the peaceful mask, and it was the face of the most successful hunters in known space. 18 months after the first Vordak attack, President Minji Park stood before the Galactic Council in a chamber that had never seen such tension. The delegates from dozens of worlds sat in perfect silence, their eyes fixed on a human leader who had just reshaped their understanding of power in the galaxy. "The Vordak Empire no longer exists," she announced calmly. "Their leadership will stand trial for genocide. Their military has been disbanded. Their worlds will be administered by human peacekeepers until stable governments can be established." The Zalanthan ambassador raised a shaking tentacle. "President Park, surely some form of reconciliation could be reached? Perhaps reparations instead of occupation." Minji's smile was gentle, but her eyes remained cold as winter space. "Ambassador, when someone burns down your neighbor's house with children inside, you don't ask for money. You make sure they can never hold matches again." Behind her, the massive display screens showed human fleets patrolling former Vortex space. The Dragon ships had not returned to their hidden bases. They remained visible, a constant reminder of humanity's true capabilities. Ambassador Hyun-Min Song took his place at the podium, wearing the black uniform that the galaxy now recognized as humanity's war colors. For 3 centuries, we chose peace because we understood war better than any of you. We built gardens because we knew how to salt the earth. We traded goods instead of blood because we remembered what blood truly costs. He gestured to images of the rebuilt colonies. New soul rises from its ashes. Harmony Base welcomes children's laughter again. Terra Verde blooms with new life. We did not seek revenge. We sought justice. The Vortex people are free to build peaceful lives under our protection. Their leaders who ordered genocide will face the consequences of their choices. On the rebuilt world of New Soul, General Taemin Cho walked through parks where children played on ground that had been scorched bare 2 years earlier. Human engineering had restored the world faster than anyone thought possible. But the memorial walls remained names of every person who had died, carved in stone that would last forever. "Grandfather, why are the ships still up there?" asked a young boy, pointing at the dragon fleet visible in the afternoon sky. Taemin knelt down to meet the child's eyes. "Because, little one, peace is not the absence of weapons. Peace is what happens when those who have the power to destroy choose instead to protect." The boy nodded seriously and ran back to his friends, already forgetting about war and ships in danger. This was exactly what Taemin had fought for. Children who could be children because adults were willing to be warriors when necessary. Captain Do Hyun Lee stood on the bridge of the inevitable consequence, now serving as a peacekeeping vessel in Vortex space. His crew rotated between military duties and humanitarian missions, helping former enemy worlds rebuild their societies without the poison of militaristic government. Status report. He requested from Lieutenant Commander Unisong. "All sectors peaceful, Captain. The Vortex civilian governments are cooperating fully with reconstruction efforts. No military activity detected in surrounding systems." Do Hyun nodded, but his eyes remained watchful. The dragon fleets would never again disappear completely. The galaxy had seen humanity's peaceful face for 3 centuries and mistaken it for weakness. That mistake would not be repeated. On Luna Station, Admiral Jiho Kim received reports from across human space. The transformation was remarkable. Worlds that had been purely civilian were now defended by orbital platforms and trained militias. But these weren't conquered territories. They were human communities that had chosen to remember their strength. "Sir," reported Captain Minsu Park, "the Galactic Trade Council is requesting new security arrangements. They want human fleets to escort their most valuable convoys." "Approved," Gio replied, "but make sure they understand the terms. We protect those who deserve protection. We leave predators to face the consequences of their choices." The other major powers had also changed their behavior. The warlike Krexan hegemony, which had been planning expansion into human territory, suddenly discovered urgent domestic issues that required all their attention. The Stellark Republic began proposing new peace treaties and cultural exchange programs. President Minji Park received their ambassadors in the restored diplomatic center on Earth, but now the meetings took place under the shadow of orbital defense platforms that everyone could see. "Humanity wishes to return to peaceful relations," she told the assembled diplomats. "We prefer trade to war, cooperation to conquest, building to breaking. But understand this, we are no longer hiding what we are capable of. The choice between peace and war is yours to make. Choose wisely." In the Outer Rim territories, Commander Hyojin Park oversaw the final dismantling of Vortex military installations. The weapons were destroyed, but the knowledge gained from studying them improved human defensive systems. Never again would human colonies stand vulnerable to surprise attack. The Dragon Protocol remained active, no longer a secret contingency, but an open promise. The fleets patrolled openly now, their dark ships a constant reminder that humanity's greatest strength was not their kindness, but their choice to be kind despite their power. On every human world, children learn the new history in school. They learn about the time before, when humans had been gentle, because they forgot they were dangerous. They learned about the awakening, when enemies discover the truth about Earth's children, and they learn the most important lesson of all, that true peace comes not from weakness, but from the conscious choice of the strong to be merciful. The dragons flew openly now, and the galaxy slept more peacefully because of it.